Hey homeschool friends, welcome back to another video. So as homeschool parents, we have all been in a struggle season of some sort. I mean, honestly, we are taking our children's education into our own hands and making decisions, and that can be rather weighty at times. I mean, it's amazing and awesome and very fulfilling on many levels, but it's also challenging. And I feel like that can be hard at times. I feel like that can put us into seasons where it just feels like more of a struggle than other seasons. There's other seasons like the beginning of the year when you're just so excited, everything's new, your kids are excited. And then there's January. There's January and February, right? Which we are in the midst of. And those are harder months to homeschool, you guys. And I know if you've been homeschooling for a while, you know that. If it's your first year homeschooling, you'll realize that this is a time of year that tends to be harder. I'm not saying that's universal. Everybody feels that way, but I feel like for many of us that can be true. And so in this video, I have a few things to think about, almost kind of like a stepwise process for if you feel like you are on the struggle bus with your homeschool, some things to think about, some kind of steps to take to help you either like see it from a different perspective or potentially even make some changes. But I feel like going through these steps can help you on many different levels. So stay tuned if you're curious what my recommendations are if you are feeling a bit down or a bit on the struggle bus with your homeschool. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel if you're new here, or welcome back if you have been coming for a while. Like I said, we are going to be talking about problem solving when your homeschool gets hard. So now I will admit that the standard advice for when you are like, my homeschool's hard, I feel overwhelmed, is just like, take a break. Just take a break, which I'll get to that in just a second because that can be a good avenue. But sometimes, honestly, you can't just take a break when you're having a hard day. I know, at least for me, I can't just stop anytime I'm struggling because we'd never get any school done. And I know that's true for some of you as well. So we have to be able to think critically when things are hard and not just be like, okay, I'm just not going to do homeschool today, because at least for me, I would not get enough days in the year if I did that. So instead of that, I have come up with kind of a stepwise process for myself to go through when I'm having a harder season. Now, this isn't necessarily like one-off hard days, but more of when homeschool seems to regularly be overwhelming and hard. And so my first step in the process is to really step back, to be able to kind of assess from a distance. And this makes a difference because what helps me is to try and almost like disengage emotionally, to not feel guilty, to not be over dramatic and feeling like everything's just going to pieces. I should just put my kids back in public school, those kinds of days. But I found that if I'm able to kind of step back and not have those thoughts, to allow myself to just be where I'm at, to be in the overwhelm and the struggle and have a moment to think, like honestly, critically think. Not react, not respond, not be overly emotional, but just to stop and take a breath, to think about what's going on, to take a moment away from the situation and process. And honestly, this is the first step because oftentimes this is the only step I have to take because I just need to calm down. I need to have proper perspective. I need to remind myself my why behind homeschooling. What are my goals? What are we trying to do? Are we accomplishing a lot of those things? And usually the answer is yes. A lot of times I feel overwhelmed kind of with the circumstances, with just what happened with the day, with whatever's kind of building up in life, because sometimes it has nothing to do with homeschool. It has more to do with life plus homeschool. And so if I'm able to step back, take a breath, momentarily pause and reflect, oftentimes that's all I need to do. That's all I need to do. I can re-enter back into the situation the next day and it can feel a bit more fresh. But the key is to stop, because I find if I'm just like, oh, I got to keep going, if I just have that mindset, I will just burn myself out and it will just build and build and build on my shoulders. And sometimes it's not even true things. It doesn't make sense, but I just convince myself otherwise. So step one is to do that. And if I get to step two, that usually means that I need to assess something in particular. And that's when I try to assess exactly what is causing me overwhelmed within my homeschool. And there's a lot of different areas that this can be caused by, but there is a lot of things often that are also going well. So sometimes it's like sorting through it all, right? You're like, this is not going well, But you know what? This is fine. This is fine. This is fine. Oh, I like this. We're doing well at this. And you can kind of take those off the table and leave yourself with maybe the thing that is causing you issues. And it can be curriculum, that's a simple one, but it also can be behaviors and relationships. So those are a little trickier, as well as just overload. Maybe you've overloaded your schedule. You have seen far too many amazing videos on YouTube and you've ordered too much curriculum. You've been trying to do too much. You don't have proper expectations for your kids' developmental stage. So you could be having some serious overwhelm, or you could be having some overwhelm in some non-homeschool stuff. So life is a big part, like health, finances. Are you having a new baby? Are you moving? Is your husband changing jobs? Like, there are so many things that can throw a wrench in just the day-to-day rhythm of what feels like a good homeschool day. But all of these things can result in a struggle season. And I feel like sorting through it all and trying to name what it is so that you can properly deal with it. Okay, so then number 3 is to find support. Talk to somebody. And you can find this in a number of different places. It could be your spouse. I'll give you a story about that in just a second. It can be a friend. Any friend. I mean, you can have some amazing close friends that can really know you and understand you, but even better, it'd be if you had a homeschool friend, somebody who is also homeschooling, because there's just some uniqueness to homeschooling that they would understand and be able to resonate with you and encourage you and give you good perspective. And if those things aren't readily available, there are other places. There are amazing like Facebook groups of homeschool moms that are just so encouraging. And so that's a good resource as well. So really find ways to support yourself. And additionally, you could also find some inspiration in books. And so this isn't like talk to someone in particular, but you can also find some inspiration, some good direction by reading homeschool books, especially the kind where moms have written them. They're sharing their experience. There's like Teaching from Rest. There's the Cindy Rollins one. I think it's called something Motherhood. I'll link some of my favorites down below that I read when I just feel like I want another homeschool mom affirmation, where I want to feel like I'm in the trenches with somebody. They understand me. Sometimes I'll just pick up a book if that's the easiest or best way for me to find support. And so for an example, in my life, there was a time, I'd say it's coming on 2 years ago, when I was just overwhelmed. I had twin 3-year-olds. I was trying to do a literature-based curriculum. I was finding inspiration by people who designed their own program, picked their own books, and picked the pages and all that. And I was like, I could do that. And I started to do it, and it just got heavier and heavier and heavier. And I was freaking out. I was like, I can't homeschool. I can't be a mom and homeschool. Look at my life. It's just chaotic. And I was telling my husband this, and he's like, can you just buy a program that will do that for you? And I was like, yes, of course I can. And he's like, well, why don't you? And I was like, well, they're more expensive, and all of this. And then I was like, and honestly, the one I really want is Sonlight, but I can't afford it. He's like, babe, just order it. Order it and see if it makes your life better. See if it is something that you can balance a bit better than some of the other things you were using. And I ordered it. And if you've been on my channel for a while, you know the rest is history. I've just been with Sonlight ever since. But it was really his encouragement of me to do the thing that I wanted to do. And not that I needed his permission to do it. Obviously, we have communication about homeschool and homeschool budgets and stuff like that. But I feel like I just needed almost the assurance that if I needed that, I could make that decision. Not just like what's the best decision for the kids, but what's the best decision for me. And just that helped so much. And so that was the support I needed, and it was amazing. So anyway, that's my story. So to move on with my steps, the next thing I would do is to change something small. So maybe you've assessed a certain thing that is a challenge in your homeschool, and maybe it's a number of things. And that's okay. You can make a number of small changes as you go. I would say try to assess which one is the most crucial, like which one will move the dial the best for you. Even if it might be the hardest one to implement, try and do that. And the other thing I would say is like put everything on the table. And what I mean by that is maybe you've always had this way of looking at things. Like, I am never going to put my kids in front of a screen, or I am never going to let them do this type of a program. I'm always going to have this much control over all these things. And I would say put some stuff on the table. And well, maybe you need to outsource. Maybe you need to find a friend who is really good at grammar and writing, and they can help your kids in that area, and you can help them in the science area or something like that. Try to think outside the box instead of just be boxed in and like, I have no options. So yeah, I said I would never use a box curriculum, or I would never do an online class. Maybe just look and see if there's some good options. Maybe you have some preconceived notions that aren't true of all of those types of classes. Maybe they are of the ones you're thinking of, but there are so many new resources out there. And it could even be schedule wise. It could be something like finding a house cleaner. It could be something like scheduling one day a week for each child. Like, you know that Monday is child A, and you go out of your way to connect with them and to find space to chat with them. Maybe chat about what they're reading, chat about other things. And you don't even have to tell them you're doing this, but it's on your calendar that this is my day to intentionally pursue a relationship with that child. So just be creative. And this is another place where like seeking that support and getting inspiration from others and books is really helpful. But make small changes. But make changes. Like, try and figure out what would actually move the dial for you in this season. And honestly, it might be taking a break. Like I said at the beginning, that's usually what people tell you, just take a break. And it might be. For sure, you might just need a break. And that's okay too. I would just say that that's not the only solution. There are so many other things you could think about when you're having a hard homeschool season. But that might be it. Honestly, that might be the best answer. So that's my kind of fourth step as you're trying to make changes. And the fifth thing I would say is celebrate your wins. Like, end on a positive note. Really be thankful for the things that are working. Like I said, there's probably a number of things, if you really think about it, within your homeschool that are going great, that you're so thankful you are homeschooling your kids because of X, Y, or Z. Celebrate those. Be thankful for that. And I feel like bringing in that gratitude and thankfulness will help shift even your perspective on the things that are hard. So be patient with yourself. Be patient with your homeschool. Be patient with your kids as you're trying to make changes. But those are my thoughts. So don't be fearful of January and February and being like, this is the worst time to homeschool. Everybody's down. I'm down. It's all going to pieces. Try to kind of work yourself through some of these steps and some of these ideas and see if you can shift things. See if you can remind yourself of why you wanted to homeschool. Remind yourself of the many joys that you already feel when you homeschool. And yeah, that's what I have. Go with that. Hopefully it has been helpful. Hopefully this video has been encouraging and you got a few nuggets that you can work with. And let me know down below if you have any other ideas, or just let me know if you're in a struggle season and I can encourage you and other people can encourage you in the comments. But otherwise, guys, that's what I have for this video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe to the channel if you want to. And otherwise, I'll see you in the next homeschool video. All right, guys, take care.